AITA for forcing my friend to tell the truth about her cheating? I, 32F, had a bestie, 30F, who has been cheating on her husband on and off for almost 2 years. At first they were on a break while she spent some time living separately and enjoying the freedom of singlehood. She had some fun for a while, but after a couple months started having casual fun with another friend of mine, 38M, and they continued this situationship on and off to present day. They ended up developing feelings for each other and the whole thing was a bit of a mess. However, about a year ago was when the cheating started, as she had endeavored to stop living the free life and was committed to fixing her marriage. But as you already know, it wasn't long before she secretly went back to the casual fun situationship guy. Their secret played heavy on many people in our friend group, but she assured us time and time again that she owned her mistakes and wanted to be better at fixing her marriage. This didn't last long as she felt she could stay friends with situationship guy, which always led back to them becoming more than friends. Flash forward to almost 3 months ago, we all took a trip away for a concert and went out drinking afterwards. After bearing the burden of their secret for so long, obviously drunk me had had enough and decided to tell my bestie how much keeping their secret was affecting me while we were out in the clubs. I didn't remember this convo until a week later, where she sent me a text that refreshed my memory explaining that I had threatened to tell her husband if she didn't. There was a lot in her message, but she explained that by saying that I crossed a boundary. She said she didn't want to fight, so I only said I was sorry and that although I couldn't remember much, I definitely used the wrong time and place to have that conversation. She then ended up telling her husband everything that week because of what I had allegedly said. And for those nosy people wondering, I don't know what the status of their relationship is at present. Since then, I remembered a bit of what happened and how much the situation was affecting me. I had said I felt it was getting to the point where I felt so guilty I may have to tell her husband. But we have not had a chance to talk as I've given her space, with one message to check in and tell her I loved her a few weeks ago. I've talked with quite a few friends because I didn't know if I was the a-hole because she was so upset and so distant, but so far all of them said NA. I'm just feeling like I'm losing my bestie now because of my morals, and I'm not sure how to move forward. So, please help Reddit. Ida. Now for the next story. AITA for not inviting my stepmom, the woman my dad had an affair with, to my small wedding? My dad and stepmom, feels so weird to call her that, got married in earlier this year. They met when I was in HS and she was my parents' foreign language teacher. She is about 10 years older than me, and became a foreign language tutor for me, too. Really, she was a conversation partner and I thought we were on friendly terms. Not as friendly as she and my dad. After 20+ years with my mom, he had an emotional affair with the other woman. This is so much more complicated because when my parents were in counseling, I was diagnosed with cancer, in college at this point, and they separated so one could care for me, while the other stayed home with my sibling. I'm talking North America-Asia time difference. The short of it is that my dad continued his affair, eventually living with the other woman while my parents' divorce was finalized. I was angry and hurt for a while, but had a good talk with my dad several years ago. My takeaways were that he shared he was finally happy, sorry he hurt me and my sibling in the process, and was unapologetic for the affair. He loved her. When invited to visit them in Africa, where they then lived, I shared I was uncomfortable being around her. We have tentatively kept in touch since then. Fast forward to this week, when my fiancé and I sent save the dates to our small wedding. We are limited to 25 people, and I agonized over inviting my dad. Ultimately, I decided it was my choice and ideally would like celebrating with him. He asked if the invite extended to my stepmom. I said no, just him. Honestly, I was shocked he even asked. My fiancé was mad. Then, today, he sent me a long message about how he was hurt that my stepmom was not invited, because she is meaningful to him. He said he'd like to talk after the wedding about any unresolved feelings I have about the divorce and a way to connect moving forward, including her. I was flabbergasted. My sibling is unwilling to even say the other woman's name. We were both invited to their wedding, however I said no because of distance and cost, $3,500 and 35 hours of travel just for the flights. Another part of me would have been deeply uncomfortable to be there. My fiancé and I made a lot of hard decisions when finalizing our wedding list. We heard repeated advice to do whatever we wanted, Whatever was best for us, because it was our special day. Now, I'm feeling guilty? For not inviting a woman I haven't spoken to in 6 years? I'll add that she has never tried reaching out to me. Even when I was sick. I know she knew I had cancer. My dad was actively cheating then. Thoughts? Comment 1. If you choose to leave the invitation to him extended, you need to make it absolutely clear to him that if he shows up with her, they will not be allowed into your wedding/reception. Because I can pretty much guarantee you that will happen. He's not going to fly 35 hours by himself to come to your wedding. Comment 2. Trust your gut and cut him out. He wants to talk afterwards about ways to move forward. Emotionally, at least he is going to tarnish if not ruin the day. Uninvite him, and if he asks why, tell him he made it uncomfortable for you with the thought of him trying to twist your special day to making it a way to try and make you consider moving forward with a woman who not only destroyed your family but never bothered contacting you when you were dealing with cancer. Just shut him down with what should be his guilt in his face. Comment 3. Uninvite your dad. He is not flying halfway around the world on his own if he decides to turn up. Your dad has already chosen his new wife and his new life. If his children were a priority, he could have flown to visit, as all of you are uncomfortable being around his wife. He has chosen not to. He was lucky to get an invite. I would disinvite him and invite a more deserving guest. AITA for getting drunk and cheating on my husband after 6 years? Hi. So, me and my husband have been married for 6 years, 2 years after dating. I made a mistake last Friday, and I need some help. Greg is a good guy. But he can be a little frustrating, and that morning, he was complaining that he had work all day and that he wouldn't be able to unwind at home. I told him it's going to be fine, but he didn't reply. Maybe he didn't hear me, but he didn't even ask what I was saying. He kept going on, and then started complaining about our bank account. Last Friday, me and some friends went out for a drink, since one of them is getting married and we wanted to give her a night to remember. My husband was okay with me having some time for myself. After a couple of drinks, a group of guys get close and begins to talk to us. One, let's call him James, sits next to me and he begins talking about his job. He's the director of a small company, and he talks with such ambition that it makes me more interested in what he's saying. The night goes on and I've been drinking quite a bit. I can't really remember much, but I remember hooking up with James. The next morning my phone is ringing like crazy. I go check it and I have a couple lost calls from my husband. When I pick it up, I just tell him I stay at my friend's place and that my phone had run out of battery. He seems to understand, and asks me if I'm going home anytime soon. I say yes. Then James wakes up, and when I ask him about last night, he just said I insisted in not using protection. I rush back to my place, trying to leave this one-night stand behind me, but I can't forget this guy. Maybe I felt in love with him, the way he talks, and he being a young man that has control over his life. I remember feeling the same way about my husband before we married, but now he is mostly giving up in life, constantly working and with no ambition. His dreams seems to have faded away, and now he spends most of the time working instead. When he arrives home, he ignores me most of the time, and just spends his free time watching sports or playing video games like a child, with eating habits to match. Also, his sexual appetite seems to bin the floor. I tell him it's okay if he can't perform and that I don't blame him, and I really don't. I try to be supportive the most I can, but sometimes that gets to me. Is there any way I can save my marriage? Me and my husband have been married for 6 years, but lately we have been having issues. Cheated on him Friday night while drunk, and now I'm afraid I felt in love with my one-night stand.